Okay, so last time we figured out how to bring the assets, planned assets, onto the books, and now we're going to figure out how to allocate the cost of these assets over their useful life. Okay, so what does that mean in plain English? Okay, so say we bought a truck for $32,000. An expense is something that's used up in the current period. Hopefully, we're not going to use up a $32,000 truck in the current period. Hopefully, it's going to last longer, maybe 4 years, okay? So it doesn't make sense to just take all of that expense the first year. So what we're going to do is we're going to allocate the cost of this truck over its useful life of 4 years. So depreciation has to be, there's different ways of doing this. We're going to look at straight line, units of activity, and declining balance. The main thing about the method that you use to allocate this cost is that it has to be what's called rational and systematic, as opposed to crazy and erratic, okay? So I guess first we should look at what assets are depreciated. Land is not, okay? All the rest basically are. It comes down to that, it's fairly simple. So our land improvements, our buildings, our machinery and equipment, we're all going to allocate the cost over their useful life. So in order to do that, we need to know, obviously, the cost, we need the useful life, and we need an estimated salvage value. How much are we going to get when we're done with this thing? Now these are both, this is a solid number, but these are both estimates. It's the estimated useful life, best guess. And then salvage value, we don't really know how much we're going to get for it sometime in the future until we sell it, but based on past experience, and that's what we estimate. Okay, so let's look at some of these methods. We'll start with straight line, and straight line is fairly straightforward. You're going to start, okay, this will be straight line. This is our first method. GHT, straight line, okay. We start with the cost of $32,000, and for straight line, we're going to deduct the estimated salvage value of $2,000, okay? And so we're going to get what's called the depreciable base. This is the depreciable base here, $30,000. And then we just divide that depreciable base by the estimated useful life of 4 years. And so we're going to take $7,500 worth of depreciation expense each year. So the journal entry here, we would go depreciation expense, okay? And then the account that we use is going to be accumulated, just piled up, accumulated depreciation. Okay, I'm just going to abbreviate that. Accumulated depreciation. And so this would be the journal entry for the first year. Okay? And that journal entry you would get made each year over the life of the truck until the cost had been fully allocated. So if you were going to look at the accumulated depreciation account, okay, so here's your truck account. It's got $32,000 in it, and that'll stay like that until the end. And then you've got your accumulated depreciation account. At the end of year one, that would have $7,500 in it. So the amount reported on your balance sheet would be truck $32,000 less accumulated depreciation of $7,500, and that would give you the current book value or carrying value of the truck. And you can see how this works on the notes. I obviously don't have room to write it all out here. But anyway, we would make this same journal entry each year. Okay, so that's straight line. Let's quickly look at units of activity. Units of activity is set up pretty much the same way. The numbers might end up being a little bit different here. That's just my helper, Albie the dog. He sees a bird outside the window. He's protecting me from. Okay, so now, as you can see, we're going to start off the same way here. This will be units of activity. So we're going to start off the same way. We're going to start with the cost less the estimated salvage, gives us the depreciable base. But now, instead of dividing by the useful life in years, we're going to divide by the useful life in units. And so the estimated number of units that they think will get out of this truck, it'd be miles, so we'll go the estimated life in miles is 150,000 miles. So we think we're going to drive this thing 150,000 miles. So to get the units of activity, we just divide the cost by the life in miles, and that gives us a rate. Okay, and so the rate is 20 cents per mile. Okay? So then we just go and read the odometer on the truck at the end of the year. How many miles did we drive? And so say the first year we drove 30,000 miles. You would just go 30,000 miles that we actually drove times 20 cents a mile would give us depreciation expense of $6,000. So we would make the journal entry 6,000 and accumulated depreciation 6,000. I'm sorry, this is getting, there we go. I'll put a line there so that will all be perfectly clear. My notes are much better than this. Okay, so that's your units of activity. The good thing about this is that it kind of, you're allocating the cost based on how much the truck is actually used. So if you only drove at 10,000 miles, you'd have less expense. If you drove at 40,000 miles, you'd have more. Okay, so that's your units of activity. They both set up the same way. And I'm going to do a separate video for declining balance because that has a slightly different setup.